All right. Good morning, Amy. Okay. That looks like I can see. Oh, I forgot my plan. It's not the best lighting, but well, I'm glad someone came. Amy, I'm glad you're here. We are at a cabin in Park City, and I'm having to use a hotspot from my phone to have any internet. So I'm really hoping that it stays. But yeah. Anyway, let me make sure it's recording, and then we'll start. Oh yeah, it's going. All right. So this month we're talking about the Vijnana-Maya-Kosha, and that's the like wisdom, intuition body, the deeper layer, which you know because I've already said that. But last night my friend Erin was telling me about her husband coming out of anesthesia after having surgery. And, he just was completely uninhibited. Right. And as he was coming out, he just loved everyone. The nurse, and he's like, "Oh, you're just doing such a good job. Can you just hold my hand?" And his mom came, and when his mom's like, "Okay, Trav, we're gonna leave now," and he just like, "Oh, you're gonna leave, but you're coming back, right? I just love you so much." And just everyone that he saw, he wanted to hold their hand, and he just expressed his love for them. Anyway, I've been thinking about that because all of his barriers were down, and it really was just an expression of what was just kind of innately a part of him, of who he was, because there were just no barriers or inhibitions. And that's what happens when we let kind of the natural man parts of us fall away. We get left with the more childlike, innocent, pure parts of us that are just wise. And so as we go through our practice, I just want you to think about kind of letting the extra layers and any kind of pretenses fall away. That's kind of what we'll be working with, that we become our most wise self. And, the Vijnana-Maya-Kosha is our ability to perceive in a really deep way. It's our intuition. So it's beyond our intellect. It's using all those faculties, the outer layers, in wise ways to discern truth and act from who we really are. So to center, we're actually going to lay on our bellies if that's comfortable for you. If you like to be on your belly, but that's how we'll breathe. So just roll onto your belly and just make a pillow for your forehead, either with your stacked hands or stacked fists. And just let yourself kind of settle as you lay. And start noticing what your breath wants to do. How deeply does it want to go? And kind of notice how you feel in your body, just the weight of your bones, the length of your legs, your belly and your rib cage on the floor. See if you can relax your face and your throat. And think about your lowest ribs. Just bring your awareness there. And breathe into that place. So you can feel the pressure of the ground underneath you on those lowest ribs, the front. And let yourself expand around that line out to the sides and up the back. And let yourself start to lengthen your inhale as it comes through your nose to a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just pause. And then exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, and pause. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause. And just really let yourself keep following that rhythm. And laying here on your belly, you may even be aware of your pulse, of the beating of your heart. And you can let that be the counting for your breath. And just let all of your inner body rhythm kind of calibrate to each other. And just take 2 more breaths here. When we're laying on our bellies like this to breathe, and it really inhibits all of our chest muscles and makes it so they can't really help us, right? We get to breathe from a really deep place. And you can think of that like your intuition, right? That acting from a really deep place, because all of the other things have just kind of fallen away. And then go ahead and just look forward, lift your head, and lengthen your left arm forward. Okay. And then you can just lay your head on your left armpit or bicep and roll to your left side. And then just roll all the way onto your back. So you'll probably roll off your mat. Just hug your knees into your chest. You can rock a little bit from side to side. And then lengthen your left leg. You can just kind of hold on to that right knee for a second. Lengthen your left arm up above your head so you're really long from your left toes up through your left fingertips. Then release that right leg with your right arm and draw that knee over to your left. You'll just kind of find a little twist just briefly, and then you'll just roll onto your belly again. And let both arms go long, and then we'll just roll over to the right. The same thing. So you can lead with your leg with that right arm long, and then come over onto your side. So you'll roll the other way. Hug both knees into your chest, just kind of rock a little bit. And then lengthen your right arm and your right leg, but hold on to that left knee. And then you can release your left knee and then lead with that knee over to your right, and you'll just roll back onto your belly as you can roll. Keep your arms long in front of you, and we're just gonna roll side to side a couple more times. You can reach your right arm kind of on the floor out to the right. Lift your head just a little bit. We're gonna lift our right leg this time. Bend at your knee and then lift that leg up off the floor and then reach it over behind you until the weight of that leg helps you roll onto your back. And then we'll do the same thing back. So bend that right knee, lift that leg up, lead with that leg, and roll onto your belly. Both arms long in front of you. Bend your left knee, lift that left leg, reach that foot behind you, and let the weight of your leg help you roll onto your back. And then we'll lead with our leg, with that left knee, and then reach it over to the right till you roll back onto your belly. Okay, we're gonna try to lead with our arms this time. So reach that left arm forward, lift your head, reach your right arm to the right, straight to the right, and try to relax your bum and your legs as much as you can. You can watch your right arm. So you're gonna lift your right arm, and we're gonna lead this twist, this roll with our arm. So you're just gonna reach that right arm. You can let your head kind of come over your left arm and just keep reaching this right arm until it rolls you onto your back. Okay, and now we're gonna roll back onto our belly, leading with our right arm. And this may be, you may have to use your legs to help you, but see if you can just use your upper body strength. So your left arm is up alongside your ear. Reach your right arm up toward the ceiling. Then you can lift your head so you're up above that left bicep, and then start reaching to the left. And then reach, reach, reach until you come onto your belly. And we'll do that to the right. So take your left arm out, reach your left arm up to roll you onto your back. And keep your arms overhead, lift that left arm up toward the ceiling, and then reach it over. You can lift your head and try not to use your legs to roll over onto your belly. And then we're coming to a Sphinx pose. So bend your elbows and just let your elbows come underneath your shoulders here. And your arms are just kind of like a number 11. Flex through your wrists. So let your fingers point up toward the ceiling. And just kind of push your palms away, push your elbows into the floor, lengthen through your neck, and really pull your fingernails back toward your shoulders as much as you can. And then release that. And find a couple rounds of kind of cat and cow movement here on your belly. So tuck your chin and just kind of let it hang for a second. Let your upper back start to feel a stretch through those trapezius muscles there. And then you can round more, kind of feel like you're pulling your sternum back into your rib cage. And then draw your little ribs together, and maybe even your belly button comes up off the floor. And then release that. Look forward and lift your gaze. Now, as you flex and round, flex through your wrists. And then you can release your wrists to look forward. And just do that at your own pace a couple more times. Just flexing through your wrists, rounding your upper back. And then releasing your hands and looking forward. Let's do that one more. Really flex through your wrists and flex through your spine. Release. And come to a neutral place. Turn your palms face up. And really reach through your thumbs toward the floor. Spread your fingers wide. And just kind of feel that engagement and activation through your forearms. And that reaching and trying to flatten the backs of your hands on the floor. And then make fists with your hands. Just really flex your fingers up toward your forearms. And then you can find some wrist circles here. And see if you can make them slow and really push through the full range of motion of your wrist joint with your circles. And then you can release that. Wiggle your fingers a little bit. And then bring your hands together into a prayer. Tuck your toes. Now we get to find some fun core engagement. Really push through your outer wrists and draw your lowest ribs together. And then maybe draw your lowest belly in. And then you can lift your pelvis, lift your legs, and come into a forearm plank. Really think about shortening the space between the top rim of your pelvis and your lowest ribs. Push into the floor. We're going to roll to our left from here. So drop your left hip to the floor and come into a boat pose. You're just going to balance. And with bent knees, just let yourself float. Sorry, Erin. And then we'll roll back. Just come into your forearm plank. And pause. And then drop your right hip and roll to your boat on the other side. And then roll back to your forearm plank. So place those forearms down, find your balance. And we'll roll to the left. Drop that left hip down, float in your boat. And then you can bring your feet down and plant your hands behind you. And just kind of play. We weren't going to lift up in the reverse table yet, but just play with the angle of your hands. So just kind of bring some buoyancy into your hands, put them down, and play with the different orientations of your fingers. So you can point your fingers towards your bum, point them out to the sides, and just kind of warm up through your wrists there, open through your heart. And one time, find a place that's comfortable for your hands. We're not going to lift our hips, but I want you just to find that engagement through your arms as you're going to lift your hips. Open your heart. And then release. We're going to roll back to our forearm plank and just take a breath there. And we'll do that same thing, just dropping over to the other side, right hip down. Find your boat. Pause there. And then plant your hands behind you. You can let your feet come down and just kind of play with the angles of your hands. And really think about your hands being kind of like feet. So you've got arches through your hands. You can feel the pads of your fingertips on the floor. And notice that connection from that pinky edge of your hand. And that chain up your arms, your triceps, all the way down your back. All right, find your boat again. Roll into your forearm plank. And then left hip down. We'll get to lift our hips this time. Plant your hands behind you, bring your feet down. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then draw your shoulder blades together. Push into your feet and just lift your hips. And we'll just do it a couple times. I want you to play with your hands so you feel what feels supportive in your shoulders. And then float again, roll onto your forearm plank. And then drop your right hip and find your boat. Place your hands behind you. Find some buoyancy and some kind of springiness through your elbows as you lift your hips. Come down and maybe reset your hands. And then come on down. Roll back into your forward plank. We're going to do one more time on each side. And so just left hip down. Find your boat, and maybe this time your legs come straighter. Really lift through your heart. Bend your knees, plant your hands, lift your hips. And then hips down. Roll to your forward plank. Just pause, find that engagement through your lower belly, and then right hip to the floor. Find your boat, maybe lengthen more, and then plant your hands. Lift your hips, and then lower. Roll to our last forward plank, and just pause there. And then put your knees down, push back into a child's pose just briefly. And find that breathing into your lowest back ribs. And come up into a table. And remember that kind of buoyant support through your hands so you feel a little springy. Reach your right leg back. And then reach your left arm forward. Just pause. Feel that support through like that corset around your belly. And then from here, bend your right knee, push your heel up toward the ceiling, and then just reach back with your left arm, maybe tap your heel. And then reach both arm and leg straight. And now you're just gonna bring that right elbow towards your left elbow toward your left rib cage and draw your right knee toward your right armpit. And then reach out long again. And then bend your knee and tap your heel. And then reach. Elbow in, knee toward your armpit. Reach long. Keep your right leg lifted, just plant your left hand. And then we'll pivot on our left knee a little bit. Bring your right inner foot to the floor and open your right arm up into a modified side plank here. Find some external rotation in that upper left arm. And reach your right arm high. And then just find some big shoulder circles here. And then switch directions. And then reach up. Just float that right leg up off the floor and feel that side body strength. Inner edge of your foot parallel with the floor. And then you can drop it back down and reach your right arm long alongside your ear. Big stretch. And just go back and forth between those two places a few times. You can just go at your own pace. Lifting your leg and then reaching your arm alongside your ear. Last time. Find that big long length and then come back to your table. Push back into child's pose just briefly and just kind of check in with your body. Notice if there's a difference from side to side. You can shift your hips from side to side. And then we'll come back up to table and lengthen our left leg this time. So set yourself up so you feel pretty stable. Reach your left leg back and right arm forward. And then knit those lower ribs together. So you're just kind of finding some support for your belly. Bend your left knee, and reach back with your right fingertips to touch your heel. And then lengthen out. You're gonna bend through your right elbow and just bring it toward your rib cage, and then bend your left knee toward your left armpit. And then reach out long. And then heel toward the ceiling, reach back and tap it. And then reach forward. Knee to armpit, elbow to rib cage. And reach. One more time. Bend your knee, tap your heel. Reach long. Knee to armpit, elbow in. Reach long again. Plant your right hand. Keep that left leg lifted and pivot on your right knee. And drop your left foot to the floor and open up into your modified side plank on the other side. Externally rotate that right upper arm so you feel support through that whole line from your pinky edge of your hand. Feel it up your tricep and let that connect to your lats and your back. Big circles with that left arm. And just go both directions a couple of times. And then reach up. Let your left leg float off the floor. And then drop that left leg. Reach your left arm alongside your ear. And go back and forth, just at your own pace, a couple of times. So you're engaging all that side body and then lengthening. Find your length and then drop your left hand down. Push back into child's pose. Settle your breath. And we'll make our way to downward facing dog. So set your hands in a supportive way and kind of remember that your hands have arches like your feet. Tuck your toes and then lift your hips up and back. And find any wiggles that you need here. Kind of experiment with your shoulders. Maybe even finding some shoulder circles here and moving your scapula, your shoulder blades on your back. And then find some stillness in your upper body, a place that's really supportive for you. And then see if you can ground through the balls of your feet and lift your toes. And really find some engagement through the fronts of your shins, the fronts of your lower legs. And then release your toes down. Just find length in your downward dog. One more breath. And then we'll walk our hands back toward your feet. And just find a standing forward fold with your knees bent as much as they need to be. Just start to greet your hamstrings here. And I've spent so many hours driving that my legs are really tight. Bend into your knees and then come to a flat back and just find a cactus shape with your arms. So draw your shoulder blades together. And then exhale, lengthen through your legs and let yourself bow. Inhale, open heart, draw your shoulder blades together. And exhale, lengthen and bow. Inhale, look forward, come to a flat back. Exhale, lengthen your legs and bow. And then bend into your knees deeply. We'll just roll up to standing. Head comes up last. And find your Tadasana. And bring your hands to your heart. Just let yourself breathe and balance. I'm going to shift our weight into the left foot. And just let your right foot kind of hover up off the floor and then drop it back down. So we're pulling in, we're doing our pelvic lifts. So you're going to lift from your pelvis, that right side, really draw that left hip in and then lower. So let this motion happen from your pelvis. Just kind of floating that right foot up off the floor and then dropping it back down. And do that one more time. And then find your equal Tadasana. Feel strong left leg and just float your right knee up into your chest. And then just kind of let your arms do what they will and just find some dynamic movement here in your balance. So you can just play with what you're doing with this leg, just swinging it around. You can reach your arms high. You can think of all the things that we do on one leg. You can kind of make your way to some poses here. You can bend into that standing knee. Just take one more breath. And then step your right foot forward. We'll come to a warrior one. Just take a pretty big step forward and ground through that left heel. Bend into your right knee. And then lift up. You can engage through that left glute and reach your arms high. And you can drop those low front ribs in and drop your shoulder blades down your back. And then bring your arms into a cactus. Take your breath in here. And then straighten that front leg. Give yourself a hug. So you'll cross elbows in front of you. Kind of round your upper back as you exhale. And we'll just move back and forth between those two places. So open heart, bend front knee. And then as you exhale, cross your elbows. Give yourself a hug and straighten that front leg. And just move with your breath there and switch the cross of your elbows each time you come through. Open your heart, straighten through that front leg. Let's do one more. And when you cross those arms and give yourself a hug, like really let it be a stretch through your whole back line. You can tuck your chin. And then bend your knee, open your arms, and then drop your hands behind you. Bring your fingertips toward touching. They don't have to touch. Draw your shoulder blades together and then really push your hands away from the back of your pelvis. And then you can let your hands meet, maybe your fingers interlace. Open your heart there. And then exhale, bow. You can rest on your right leg, or you can drop your right shoulder down inside your right knee and find some support from that right outer hip, drawing it toward the midline. And then release your hands. Plant your hands down, setting up for plank. And then step that right foot back. You'll lift your left heel. And just find some steadiness here in your plank. You can drop your knees if you need to. Take one more breath in. Exhale will bring you all the way to the floor. And then untuck your toes, push to the tops of your feet. Float your hands up off the floor, engage your back body. And then plant your hands back down, draw your shoulder blades together, lift your heart into a cobra. And then exhale to lower. Tuck your toes, make your way to downward facing dog. And just greet your body there, check in. Right, and just kind of think of peeling back all those unnecessary layers. So you're acting from your wisdom, even as we move here. Walk your hands back towards your feet and find standing forward fold. Kind of check out your feet there. You can feel how your hamstrings feel the second time around. Bend into your knees, come to a flat back, parallel with the floor, and cactus your arms. And then exhale, you can lengthen your legs a little and bow. Inhale, soften your knees, halfway up, cactus arms. Exhale and fold. One more time like that. Inhale, really engage everything in that back body, even your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves. Exhale and fold. Soften into your knees, roll yourself all the way up to standing. And then just feel your Tadasana. And then grow roots down through that right foot. Engage that right outer hip in, and we're just gonna hover left foot up off the floor. And you're gonna do this by drawing your right outer hip in, not letting it out. And then lower that left foot down. And just do that a few times. So you're drawing that right outer hip in, just finding that pelvic list as you lift that left side of your pelvis. And the right will kind of feel like it drops. Lower that left foot down. Find equal standing. Really find some strength in that right foot. And then bend your left knee up. Find your balance there. And then you can move your arms wherever you want them. And then just kind of play. Just find some dynamic movement here. You can let your arms swim around. And just let this leg swing. You can think of all the things that we do balancing on one foot. You could find a warrior 3, tap your heel in a dancer, whatever. You can bend that standing knee and swing your arms. Just find some dynamic movement from your core. And then we'll take a big step forward and find warrior 1. Step forward with that left foot, ground your right heel, lift up through that lower belly, reach your arms high, and think of reaching your arms from your back body. And then let those low ribs stay settled in so you're not flaring out. And so you have that support through your belly. Take an inhale, cactus your arms. And then as you exhale, cross your elbows and give yourself a hug. Tuck your chin. And then open up. Move with your breath. And straighten that front leg as you hug yourself, and let that be a long stretch through your whole back body. And just switch the cross of your elbows each time. So it doesn't need to be intense, but this fluid movement really helps, like your fascia, that kind of saran wrap wrapping around your muscle fibers, and each of your muscles turns into tendons and ligaments. It kind of just lines all those fibers up and makes it more pliable. Let's do one more hug. Open up, just pause. And then bring your fingers toward touching behind your back. And then push your hands away from your pelvis. Lift up through your lower belly. And then you can find a clasp of your hands the awkward way. See if you can do the other thumb on top. Open through your heart. And then find your humble warrior. You can rest on your thigh or really fold down inside that left knee. But find support from that left outer hip. And then release your hands. Plant your hands for plank. Step back into your plank and pause. You can let your knees come down. Take a breath in. And then exhale all the way to your belly. Untuck your toes. And then float your hands up. Engage your back body. And then plant your hands. Open your heart into cobra. And then exhale. Downward facing dog. Collect your breath. Then we're going to shorten our dog a little bit. So just take your foot about 1 footprint closer toward your hands, and then wide, about as wide as your mat. Lengthen up through your sitting bones and shift your hips from side to side a little. And we're going to play with some balance here. So ground into your left hand. Let your right hand get light. Just come onto your right fingertips. And then float your right hand up off the floor. And then thread it under and just reach to tap your left ankle. And then replace your right hand. And slowly do a shift to the other side. So ground into that right hand and then kind of shift your weight. Come onto your left fingertips, float that left hand, and then reach it back to tap your outer right ankle or knee or calf. And just go back and forth a couple of times. And you can go faster on your subsequent times, just reaching back. And after you've done each side equal amount of times, bring your feet closer together. And we'll lift our right leg up and back. You can play with your balance here. Now ground into that right hand. And then just float onto your left fingertips. And you can play, I don't know how I'm gonna do with this today. We'll see. Maybe let your left hand float off the floor. And then maybe place it down. Now you can try to bend your right knee. And like we did in table, you can maybe float that left hand up and reach back and tap your heel. I don't know if it's gonna happen for me. Nope. I'm too wobbly today. There it is. Okay. Settle that left hand back down. And then we'll step our right foot forward, set up for warrior two. Round your left heel and just cartwheel yourself up. Open out. And then just kind of let yourself find some buoyancy in your legs. And you can kind of let your hips shift from side to side so that you find an angle for those left toes that feels and brings some spaciousness into your hip joints. So just let yourself find some movement there. And then you can find a place to really settle. And think of this left hip joint, taking that ball of your femur bone back toward the back of your hip socket. And then find some length. Inhale and reverse your warrior. And then exhale. We'll just find side angle pose. Right forearm on your right thigh. Left arm long. And let yourself get some length here. And stay here. Or you could sneak your right hand down. Maybe hold your right ankle. Maybe fingertips to the floor. And then come back up to your warrior two. Inhale, reverse your warrior and straighten that front leg. And then we'll exhale into triangle pose. Draw that right outer hip back. And just let yourself find a place where you feel spacious in your hips and you're not congesting this whole right side body. You can find some length there. So that may be here. You may have fingertips on the floor, but really, right, it's moving with that intuition and that wisdom that's more important than anything. Take one more breath. And then exhale, bend into your right knee. We're gonna plant our left hand down and lift left heel. And then reach your right arm up and find a big twist here. Find that external rotation of your left arm so you can find some support. Roll onto the pinky edge of your left foot. And maybe you could walk that right foot partway down your mat and find a modified side plank here where you could stack your right foot on top and just pause. And like we did from forearm plank, we're just gonna drop our left hip to the floor and come to a boat pose. Lift your heart. Maybe lengthen your legs, maybe just stay with knees bent. And then plant your hands behind you. Bring your feet to the floor. And you have options here. You can do a reverse table, again with your knees bent, or you could play
with legs straight. Really find some buoyancy through your shoulders and your elbows here. So you're not locking things out. Push into the pinky edge of your hands and then lift your hips wherever you are. And maybe bring the soles of your feet to the floor if your legs are long. And then lower down. We're just gonna roll over into a table and make your way back into a child's pose. Collect your breath. Find a drink if you need to. You're struggling with dry Utah. And then find your downward facing dog. Okay, we're gonna play with our balance again here. So take that short, wide dog and just do your little reaching twists a few times. And really feeling the contact of your hand on the floor and feeling that connection from your outer hand all the way down your back. So feel that buoyant support there. And then pause in your dog. Bring your feet closer together, but you can keep it short. Okay, we're gonna lift our left leg. And you can stay there. And then maybe just hover onto your right fingertips. Maybe float your right hand off the floor and just reach it forward. Maybe you bend through that left knee and reach back. And just notice if the second side is a totally different experience than the first. Maybe find your balance and tap your heel to your fingers. And then plant that right hand down. Step your left foot forward. And just find your warrior two on the other side. And really take some time to set your pelvis up here. And find the angle of your feet that feels spacious in your pelvis. And you can kind of swivel that right hip around and think of moving that right femur bone toward the back plane of your body. And then find stillness there. You're gonna open your arms and just settle. Inhale to reverse your warrior. Stay committed to the bend in that front knee. And then exhale. Side angle pose. Right arm alongside your ear. Left forearm on that left thigh. Opening through your heart. Right, and you're moving here from that wisdom. From that ability to discern what is true and good. Right, and that's why we can find shifts and movements and reach down toward the floor or hold that inner ankle. Inhale back up to your warrior two. Reverse that, straighten that front leg, reach up and back, and then reach out. Find your triangle, right? And just remember that spaciousness, but a sense of support through your pelvis. So you come down to a place where you don't feel like you're like cramping things up. So you don't want to feel compromised or congested through that left side body. And take one more breath here. And then plant that right hand down. Bend into your left knee, lift your right heel, and we'll find that modified side plank here. So you start with a twist, left arm up, and then turn those left toes to the left. Maybe walk that foot down, Come to the pinky edge of that right foot. Maybe pause here. Maybe stack feet. And that external rotation of that right upper arm. And then we'll make our way to boat pose. You'll drop that right hip to the floor and then just float into your boat. Maybe long legs, maybe knees bent. And then we'll set up for either reverse table, or you can lengthen your legs for a reverse plank. Find the angle of your fingers that feels the best for your wrists and your shoulders. And then lift your hips. And just feel that long line of strength through your whole back body. And then lower your hips down, roll back onto your belly. And this time just rest in a Sphinx. And just rest here and breathe. And just let your head hang and let the top of your back and your neck just stretch. And then look forward. Just kind of kitty corner your left forearm, bend your right knee, and you can just reach back for that right foot. And then push down through your pubic bone and just find a quad stretch here. And you can find a engagement of your shoulder that feels like a good opening for you. So you might take those right fingertips and turn them to the right and then spin them the same direction as your toes. Really draw that right heel towards your bum. And you just find kind of the angle that feels like an opening through your shoulder and your leg, and then release. Just switch sides. Bend through that left leg. Reach back, and you can reach out through the outer edge of your foot, or you can shift and bring your hand from the inner edge of your foot, turning those fingers to the left. You can bend your elbow more. You just take your fingers, maybe turn them the same direction as your toes. And then release that. Make a pillow for your forehead with your hands and just breathe here for a breath or two. Okay, and then push down through your pubic bone and find some support of your lower belly. Keep your hands exactly where they are. So you're going to keep your forehead connected with your hands and your elbows wide. And with the breath in, just lift your head and your arms up off the floor. And then lower down. And move with your breath there for 2 or 3 more rounds of lifting and lowering. And then release your hands, just to bring your hands along your sides. Let your forehead come to the floor. Loop your shoulders up off the floor, push into your pubic bone, and then lift both legs. You can lift your head and chest, draw your shoulder blades together, float your hands up off the floor, and just reach your fingers back. And then release. We'll come right back into that Shalabhasana. So push into your pubic bone, find space in the back of your pelvis. Okay. Lift your head and chest, lift both legs. You can stay here, or you can bend your knees and just stay here, reaching fingertips towards heels, or you can reach for outer feet or ankles with your hands, really resisting feet into hands, hands into feet. Opening into your boat. And then release down. Make a pillow for your forehead, maybe stack the unusual hand on top. Bend both knees and just windshield wiper. from side to side. And then release your legs down. And lift your head, just slide your hands underneath your shoulders. Push yourself up into a table. And just find maybe some little circles of your pelvis, cat and cow, right? This is a moment where you just listen to your intuition. What does your body need here? And then we'll push hips to heels. Just stay upright. Just shift your hips to one side. And we'll swing our right leg out. Left knee bent. So just set up for Janu Sirsasana here. Really lengthen through your spine. And let your right knee bend. So feel like you're dragging your right heel back. And let that engagement feel like it's pulling you forward. And then push through your heel to straighten your leg and let it push you back up. And just find some dynamic movement here. You can let your arms get into it however you want to, but feel that dragging back. Find a bend in your knee as you fold and then push your leg straight to come up. And just move there. So you can think of this kind of flossing through that fascia as you kind of dynamically move. And that whole long line from your heel, think of it going from from the back of your heel all the way up your glutes, all the way up to the crown of your head. And then the next time you come forward, you can stay. And you can find the straightness of your knee that really supports length in your body. And let yourself bow. And then go ahead and come on up. We'll just open this left knee out just a little more. Okay, and so now you're kind of angled between your two legs. Bring your right hand inside that right knee, and then just open your left arm up into a twist here. And then you can bend over to your right. And pause there. You might bend into that lower elbow. Find some resistance of your arm into your leg to let yourself open your heart up toward the ceiling a little more. You can reach for your toes, but I don't know that that always helps. And then go ahead and come on up. I'm just going to switch sides. So lengthen that left leg, bend your right knee so your foot comes to your inner thigh. And really feel like you're activating that whole back of your leg as you bend that knee and reach your heart forward. And then push your heel away to come back up. And let your leg come to straight. And just move dynamically here. So think of that pliability of all those connective tissues, just kind of warming and getting more pliable as you move dynamically. And after you feel like you've done that several times, you feel open and ready to pause. You can just pause with your fold, and a bend in your knee is just fine. You really want to support the length and the integrity of your spine. Right, moving with that wisdom and feeling things out with that dynamic movement is really helpful. It's an investigation. Right, so you can move with some wisdom. It helps your whole nervous system get information about where you're going. Go ahead and come on up. And then just open that right knee to the right a little more. So you're kind of aiming between your two legs, and you can bring your left hand inside. And then open your right arm out to the right. And you can find your side bend right arm alongside your ear. Maybe bend into that left elbow. You can use some resistance of your left arm into your left leg to twist your heart up and to the right. And even though we're not really moving a lot here, you can think of every breath as an investigation to really move with more wisdom into a place that feels really spacious in your body. And then go ahead and come on up. Lengthen both of your legs. Just scoot yourself to the middle of your mat. You can hold on to the backs of your thighs, just one vertebrae at a time. See if you can lower down. So feel the back of your pelvis on the floor. And then you can slide your hands down or release your hands. See if you can do lower back vertebrae, one at a time. And then feel your lowest ribs. And then come all the way down. And just pause with your breath here. Set yourself up for a round of bridge if you feel like that's necessary in your body, or you can just rest with your feet wide, knees together. Okay. So one of those, do one of those things. If you're ready for a bridge, draw your shoulder blades together, push into both feet, lift your hips up, and just pause. And you can find some movement here, like find that investigation of your pelvis. You can rock from side to side. And then find some stillness in your bridge. Maybe interlace hands underneath you. Maybe just let it be more restful and let your arms stay wide. And then maybe lift your heels and then draw your heels down and just lift your toes and just rock a little bit. Feel that engagement. And then just kind of sway your pelvis from side to side as you lower down. And come down to the floor. Take your feet as wide as your mat. And if you're already there with feet wide, knees together, let your knees come apart. Windshield wiper our knees from side to side. Just finding that internal rotation of one leg, external rotation of the other. Just let your pelvis kind of rock on the floor. And find whatever last movements your body needs here. So maybe pause in your twist. You could hug knees into your chest. Find a happy baby pose, which is but we kind of work through all those outer layers, and it takes some time, some peeling back, some effort. Right? But that's how we get to the wisdom. Because we are layers, and that's perfectly fine. We need those outer layers. But when we can integrate them and just act from wisdom, that's when our lives are happy. Make your way to your final rest. So just take up as much space on your mat as you can. Let your palms face. yourself rest for as long as you have time. To our hour. We did go 3 minutes longer. But as you're ready, you can find a bend in your knees, roll to your favorite side, and let yourself rest on your side for a breath or two before you push yourself up. You can just stay in your Shavasana for a while. When you get to seated, let yourself close your eyes, bring your hands to your heart, and just find that inner smile, that sense of a smile behind your eyes. Hold that sense of a smile inside of your mouth. And breathe that smile into your heart space. And just greet this new day. The divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Namaste. Thank you, friends, for practicing with me today. Have a fun day. Was it fun to do yoga from the cabin?